Uh, hey everybody, Akamatzu here, back with another thoughts video. This time on Metaphor ReFantazio, latest game that Atlas put out, or latest RPG game that Atlas put out. I just finished it over on my Twitch channel, which is where I'm doing this recording live. So I guess I'll jump into the housekeeping. Since I'm doing this live, I might ramble. I ain't got no bullet points at all. Haven't made any. And what else? I guess I should disclose that I got offered this. I got this game. Atlas gave me this game. So part of the federal trade regulations, I have to disclose to you that I didn't buy this game myself. I did not. They gave me this game. So there's that too. Take that information for what you will. So as always, I usually structure them. I usually structure these videos in the good, the bad, and the negative. So let's start off with the good, or even before that. Well, no, I'll just start off with the good. So firstly, it might not sound like a good point, but it is. So firstly, I was not interested in this game in the slightest. To give you a visual aid, prior to this game, these were all the Atlas games that I've played. Put the nudes away? No, it was my finances. I didn't want that shown. Anyways, to give you a visual aid of all the Atlas games I've played prior to Metaphor, here we are. Like I played 5, Persona 5. That was the first Atlas game I played. 5 Royal, SMT 5, Persona 3 FES, Persona 4 Golden, Soul Hackers 2. And then this year, same year, I played Persona 3 Reloaded, and then played Metaphor, and then I played 3 other ones that are the JRPGs. So prior to this, I played 7 Atlas RPGs. And I bring this up because before I even played Metaphor, I was not interested in the game at all, period, despite playing 7 other RPGs that they played. Hey, Intra, hello. And I think that's important to bring up because, and I've brought it up before, this game's visual presentation when they were advertising the game did nothing for me, despite me being an Atlas, fan of their RPG series. It didn't do anything for me. So I was actually going to skip this game. I had no intention of playing it until I played the demo. Right? I heard that they came out with a demo. I gave it a try. I went into it not really expecting much because I just didn't really like the art style, mainly like the human enemies. It just wasn't gelling with me. And I'm not a fan of medieval settings. And this is a medieval setting game. Medieval settings don't really do it for me. So not really like my interest. But after playing the demo, my mind changed completely. I realized how dumb I was. And how I was going to miss out on something that was great. And I think that is a net positive that I think it's a net positive to have that change of mind, I would say, right? Like, despite I should have wanted to play this game, given my history of it, and I didn't. And then playing the demo, which I played for like 15, 16 hours, it changed my mind. And reasons being, there's a lot of nice things that I quite enjoy that this game does. So it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. If you've played a Persona game, I think this game, in my experience, I've only played, as you saw, I've only played 1 SMT game. And from the experience that I've had with SMT and Persona, to me, this game more closely resembles Persona than it does SMT. In SMT, it does have its remnants in the battle system and the way like the turns work and stuff. But other than that, I don't really feel like it's, well, and also I'll talk about it later, but there's some other battles things that are kind of SMT-ish. But for the most part, it's mainly a Persona game. So if you've played Persona 5, arguably the most popular one, you'll have an idea of how this game works. And so they're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But they do enough things here to make it different that I really appreciate. For instance, the Final Fantasy V-ness that they do with the jobs. With being able to swap out skills from other jobs, I think is really cool. And it's just like how it was in Final Fantasy V if you played that game. And it offers a different way of building your character outside of using like skill cards that you would historically in the past, right? For Persona games in particular, you would use skill cards to put the skills on that you want, or and stuff like that. I found this to be actually pretty cool, and the fact that your teammates also are now not stuck to any particular persona, right? They can be any job you want, although their stats do level up in the way that you do want to prioritize some jobs over other, but you're not held to that. You can do whatever you want. And that's actually it's pretty nice. It adds to a lot of flexibility, a lot of customization, and a lot of just unique ways of being able to play the game. You can play the game however you want with the characters, pretty much however you like. Like I said, they are kind of determined to be played in a specific way, but you don't have to play them that way. And that is quite nice. I actually really really enjoy this. I am a bit iffy on the job system per se. I like it overall. I do think it does I don't know how I feel about it exactly. It's kind of hard to articulate in words that, like, I do think it's really nice that you get a lot of variety of jobs to play as, but at the same time, there's no way you're actually going to be playing all these jobs and utilizing them. Some, in my opinion, are just, unfortunately, I think they're not useful. Like, for instance, Cleric. To give you a rundown of what I did, I literally used MIDI, the weak AoE heal from the first tier in the healer's tree, the entire game. I played the game for over 180 hours. I never used the second advanced form of it. And I think that's kind of bad because it makes it to where some jobs, unfortunately, just are just not useful. I thought the MP requirement for this was too high, especially like in the beginning of the game when MP is scarce. I thought the effect, while it would basically full heal your people, I felt that MIDI did enough. It got me like 75%, even though it's weak. And you pair it with the Cleric's ability to increase Godly Blessing, to increase healing skills by 1.5. I didn't need any other form of healing outside of items that you get from something else, which unfortunately makes it to where Cleric, which is the second job in the 3-skill tree, not useful. I never even unlocked Savior. I barely even remember its abilities. And I think this actually happens with a lot of jobs, unfortunately. I would say the same thing with Martial Artist. I leveled up Martial Artist only to get it for someone else's job. It was like a stepping stone for someone else's job, and that was it. I never actually used the job outside of, I think, like one fight in particular, and I had wished I would have kept them on their previous job because it would have been better. And I do think this game kind of suffers for this in a lot of places, like Straw's warrior tree. I only really ever used them as a warrior, and then I never used them. I unlocked all his jobs, mastered them, and I never used them until he got his final one. And I think that's where I'm kind of like in the mix about this. While I do like the customized ability of being able to throw certain skills from one job to another and make whatever you want, come up with whatever plans you want, I do feel like in a way there's kind of too many of them, to where like some of them just aren't really even useful. And they're just kind of there, and they're kind of just meant to be stepping stones. I guess I just don't really like that, because it brings me back to say like I'm thinking like Final Fantasy X too. If you played it, I know a lot of people dislike that game, but in that game there are 3 ultimate jobs. Well, let's say 6, because 3 people have their ultimate ones, and then there's 3 jobs that are the same for each character, but they're played differently. Prior to that, you can play every job on every character and make them useful in that game. It's set up that way. And I kind of wish that this game was too, to where every job felt like it was useful. I feel like there's just a portion of jobs that you honestly are not even going to touch. I don't want to say that's bad, because it is always nice to have options, but then at the same time, it's like, if it's not needed, should it really even be here? I don't know. I'm a bit split on that one, but overall, I do think this is pretty cool, and I like the change that it gives you from SMT and Persona. It's a nice change. I think this is pretty nice. And this is where the game pretty much differs from those other twos as well. And I think it's really nice. I do think they added like a bunch of quality of life things to make certain things just easier to do. Say like your followers, leveling up your bonds in this game is way easier than it's ever been. And I think that's honestly for the better. There was a quest that I got 170 hours into the game, and I couldn't finish it because of the time limit, because of other circumstances, right? And that's usually the case in the past version of these games. Like, you would have to look up a guide if you are not quick on the get up of trying to figure out what's the best time to hang out with all these people, and you make a spreadsheet writing down when they're all available, when you can do this, when you can do that, when you can do that, blah, blah, blah. You usually have to look up a guide to try in the past games to try to max out all this stuff, and you do not have to do that in this game. I was able to max out everybody's stuff, not following a guide, just playing the game. And I think, honestly, that is really nice. I think you shouldn't really have to have a guide to be able to do that. So it's a little bit more lenient, and I think that is a welcome thing. They also made it to where the points that you accumulate when you're talking to the people that would increase their rank or decrease their rank in some games doesn't exist anymore, so you don't have to worry about what option you pick when you're talking to them. You can just pick what you feel like, and they level up at the same rate. Love it. Think it's fantastic. That was another whole reason why you'd have to look at a guide, because you would want to think which option is the best one I need to pick so I can level them up faster, so I can have them all level up by the end of the game. You don't got to worry about that at all. I think that's great. What else? Story's nice. I thought the story was really cool. The bad guy I thought was really interesting. I thought at least the way they portrayed it, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Usually these games kind of amount to you fighting God and all that stuff, and it wasn't really like that this time, which is a nice change of pace. But the way they portrayed him, I thought was actually pretty cool. It does get kind of tiresome when you're always fighting God at the end of the game, so I like that they did something a little bit different this time. I thought that was really nice. And there's just a lot of small things that they've done that I think is really great that is passing over my head. But overall, there's a lot of stuff that they've done that I think is fantastic in this game. I think I'm going to move on to certain things that I thought were a bit questionable that I didn't like. Let's see here. One is, I can't really show it to you, but it's when you're selling your items or stuff like that. I wish there was more sorting involved here. Right, it defaults to sorting by the highest value, regardless of the rank. I wish you could sort this stuff by weapon type. I think it would be a lot easier for you to manage at stores. It's a bit hectic. A little bit more hectic than I think it needs to. You also can't get the full stats when you're at the store. So for instance, like this item right here that says strength +2, endurance +2. When you're at the store and you're comparing items with what you're wanting to buy versus what your character has on, it doesn't tell you everything that the weapon has. And frankly, it's actually kind of annoying, because then you have to back out, go to the weapon screen, look at the stuff, see what they have, back out, go back to the menu, look at that. And I feel like that could just be changed if you just gave the option to look at the weapon and all its information on that screen, on the purchase screen or sell screen. I feel like that's unnecessary steps. And it's also, I feel like it's unnecessary because these are things that they've done in the past in previous games. So to me, it's a bit odd that they don't do it here as well. Not that big of a deal, but I do think it would be nice to have. I'm going to talk about the one quest. So the game follows a calendar system, just like Persona games. It's not exactly the same, but it is similar enough. It does follow a counter system. You have a day and nighttime cycle, and you can do certain things on certain days, albeit I feel like it's a lot less strict. One thing I do think is pretty annoying, though, and it's going to be related to the quest I talked about earlier. Every time you get to a major event into this game, it's always, if you do not, I'm not going to hover over the circle for spoiler reasons, but if you do not do the event by that day, or by that day, it is game over and you get the option to reload a save, or it will automatically push you back a couple days, like giving you time to take care of business. The final one does not do that. The final one is once you get to that day, the events will automatically trigger and you are locked in until the end of the game. I don't like this because there is a quest line that is available, that there is another quest at the end of it, but you won't know that if you haven't completed 3 quests prior, and you can lock yourself out of that quest if you wait to do it. And then the game is encouraging you at this point in the game to do everything you can so that you're strong enough to take on the final boss. Right? So what I did was I was doing stat level ups. So because I did the first 2 quests in the storyline and they were pretty hard. So I wanted to do the third one, which I thought was the last one. I thought I would go do stat ups, make that third one smooth, and then smooth into the final runway to the end of the game. When I beat the third one, I found out that there was a 4th one that I didn't know prior, that they didn't give me any heads up. So I missed it. I can't do it. It's right here. I can't do it. And I think that's dumb. This game doesn't have a rewind feature that they, to my understanding, that they introduced in like Persona 3 Reloaded. I think it would be very nice here, because if they did, I'd be able to reload a couple days and be able to finish it. But there's no point in the game, especially in the last month, that I would think that would happen. And that's why I think the idea of having it lock you in into the final thing, I think is a bad idea. I think they should just do the same way it was with all the other ones. If you don't have it finished by this date, it's game over. Because then you would be able to get the ability to rewind. I don't understand why they did this, because it is allowing people to get into the same circumstance that I am, and I don't think that's a good idea. I wish it wasn't like this. I was pretty annoyed when that happened. I'm not going to say it's horrible, and I'm not going to also say, like, you know, it's not bad them not having it, but maybe if you don't have the ability to rewind time, maybe don't do that to the players so that you do allow them to have the ability to complete everything that you can in one go. I think that is a good idea. Other than other bad stuff, I can't really say. There wasn't really many. Other stuff is really just nitpicky. The main bad guy, I would say when he's talking, like when his stuff is voice acted, the music kind of drowns out him a bit, I will say. Whether that's a me problem or not, could be. But I always felt it didn't feel that way for anyone else. But whenever he's talked, I felt like it was kind of hard to hear him. This is nitpicky as hell. Like, I'm not saying it matters greatly, but it is just something I noticed that it happened pretty much throughout the entire game. I kind of wish his voice volume was a little bit louder, because he is a little bit soft-spoken. Other than that, I think the game's fantastic. I don't have anything bad that's really bad to say. I thought the game was fantastic. Again, going from not wanting to play it at all and then playing it, I had a great time. I thought it was fun. They did a lot of things to make it different. I forgot one. In battle in this game, when you either absorb an attack from an enemy or you make them miss, they lose their complete turn. If you block their attack, they lose 2 turns. If they block your attack, you lose 2 turns. This is not something, from my knowledge, that is in Persona games. It might be in SMT games. But I liked it because it made combat harder and it made your misses devastating. And when you messed up and you did an element that the enemy absorbed, it made it devastating. It sucked on hardest difficulty sometimes, or hard difficulty, which I played on. And I like that because it made the combat more difficult. Having played 7 of these games, you know, like I said, it's not trying to reinvent the wheel, so I already went in kind of knowing what to expect and how to play. So I do appreciate these because it makes it for someone like me have a fresh experience by just making these little tweaks and making these actions much more severe. I probably can understand for a new player, it's probably a little bit more devastating. They might not like these mechanics, but I appreciate it because it did make when it sucked. It sucked. And I'm just like, no. But that's what made it enjoyable, to try to overcome that adversity in the combat and push through that stuff. It made it more engaging to me. So I appreciated those little small changes they've made with the combat and the synergy systems too. I thought it was really nice. I think that's about all I got to say. I think it's a fantastic game. I would encourage people to buy it. I think it's a job well done. Again, I'm going to thank Atlas for sending me a code for the game. I appreciate it. Thank you, Papa Atlas. You have been taking care of me for a while now, so I very much appreciate it. So that's where I'm going to wrap this up. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.
So dance, wanna put you